organization, that's Alex. Those are graduates of our team. We train professionals, but most especially we train lay counselors as well. People from the community, and I hope to talk about one of the projects. The School in the Cradle, when they asked me to talk at an education conference, I thought I was out of my depths. But as I heard David Harrison speak, I began to see that it's an enormous combination, a confluence of ideas. I'm coming from the head, from the heart, as somebody said yesterday, and I think a lot of academics are coming from the head, and the two can meet. This is the project I want to speak. We've got many projects, but this is the particular one. Umdlezane is an isiXhosa word or Nguni word, meaning that period of time when a mother and her baby need to get together when they are bonding, which ties in perfectly with modern attachment theory, with all the latest scientific work that's going in early childhood. I agree with David Harrison. It's the science of early childhood. It is not simply the mother loving a child, but how she loves it, the father's loving it, the parents, a caregiver. It is the relationship between the two that affects later life totally. Physical and mental, scholastic and productivity. The foundations of lifelong mental and physical health are built in early childhood. We're trying to close the gap between what we know, what we've proved scientifically, and what we do, which is not always easy. So it's back to school. A bit early for school? No ways. We all had to. My grandson, a total genius. For mum as well, she has to go to school. Dad as well, one of our young interns. Central to our Ububele, Umdlezane, parent-infant psychotherapy is the relationship, where it's the relationship between the mother and her father, between the parents and the child, between a caregiver and her client, between a professional caregiver, or as we're using now, more and more lay counselors, people selected from the community who we don't want to call counselors. We feel that there's a big mistake in that unless you spend a lot of time training counselors, what you get are very poor second-rate counselors. What we've tried to do now, our latest effort, is to choose mothers from the community who have certain qualities. Capacity for empathy, they need to be a mother, they need to live in the community, they need to be able to speak the language, and as a result they've got buy-in with the people that they're dealing with. And they go in not as counselors, but as honored visitors or a kind of mentor or friend over this difficult period of early childhood. So, this is how it began. There was a poster up at Oxford Station in the UK talking about parent-infant psychotherapy. I thought, I'd been a psychologist for many years. I'd never heard of doing psychotherapy with infants. And I began to explore, found that there was a literature, called together a number of people who were interested in looking at early childhood, very early childhood, infancy, and we started a reading group at Ububele about 10 years ago, 9 years ago, on a Saturday morning, and found about 15 psychologists and social workers coming to learn about it. None of us knew anything about it. We started learning ourselves. One of the people that we were reading was that lady there, Tessa Barrington from UCT, and she came out in 2007 and actually ran a workshop for us, a workshop for psychologists mainly, to learn how to do parent-infant psychotherapy. She'd been sent and kindly supported by Peter Fonagy from the Anna Freud Center, who is a world authority on attachment and mentalization. And from this workshop, this begat our project. The main therapeutic factor is the considered relationship formed between the parents and a trained worker. Notice I don't call it a psychologist or a social worker because it varies. This is where the second Freud, when she came out for the second time, we decided we had to start training locally. And we sent two of our psychologists onto the course with her. They acted as her assistants on the course. The New Beginnings, they did a joint venture with Anna Freud, Witz and Ububele. They did a work with mothers, an eight-session structured intervention called New Beginnings at shelters for mothers and infants. And we've offered now, since 2007, UU-PIP training for psychologists and social worker, and we've started WIPA, working with parents relationship for people who are lay counsellors. So we're addressing that, and we teach them over about 8 sessions about early childhood, about birth, about pregnancy, especially what happens to the mother and the infant in that early period, both the infant of the mother and the mother of the infant, working very much on the idea of a mother holding an infant in mind. It's not simply supplying food, it is supplying an involvement, an interaction, being able to think about the child as a separate human being. We then started what we call the baby map. This is at the Alex Clinic. This is a normal clinic. We started by putting a mat on the floor, and this is a psychologist. This is an auxiliary social worker. She does the translation, and we do a little announcement. If there's any issue other than medical that you'd like to discuss about your baby, and you can see it's hardly the therapeutic confidentiality of a normal psychotherapy situation, but people are enormously respectful. They wait until they can come onto the mat. It's a half-hour intervention, usually half an hour. We don't time it. The mother, we've learned how to structure this. The mothers usually start with something concrete. My baby doesn't take milk, there's something wrong with her poo, etc. That we've learned very quickly to go underneath that and say, well, tell me a little bit about where you come from. We know that depending on the relationship of the mother to her mother, that this is going to influence. We identified whether she's a single mom, where her partner is, what are the supports, and we break the first cycle of isolation. One of the things we've realized is that these women are extremely isolated in dealing with, they don't have health visitors, they don't have people coming to their home. So this was where we began our Umdlezaan program. It's been running for, I think, 8 years. We see about 400 to 500 mothers a week. We're in 4 sites in Alex. But our aim is not to work in Alex. Our aim is to get a program going which can be disseminated throughout the country, because we believe this is the first point of breakdown. That's the baby mat. If we see something quite serious, we refer it to the clinic, which we run ourselves, where we'll do something like a 6-session intervention. Of course, you're not going to deal with major issues like maternal depression, postpartum depressions, but you might make a start. And it is quite amazing the benefit that mothers report they receive from that. We've just started this year drop-in groups for mothers and children. These mothers are totally isolated in Alex. They don't have a chance to meet other mothers. We simply started a room once a week for 90 minutes. Mothers bring their babies. We have no agenda other than to have a psychologist and a home visitor listening to them, and we pick up issues there by watching their babies and the mothers interact and help the mothers play with their babies and attach to the babies. So those are called the joyful drop-in groups. We've started a new project called the Home Visitors Project, and this has been most exciting. We started by selecting 10 and reducing that down to 5 mothers from Alex. We've been enormously impressed with the quality of these women. They go on a 3-week training with us in the mornings, learning about early childhood, learning about relationships, not learning how to do interventions, making interpretations, but learning to break the isolation of the mother and to work with the mother and the baby. They do not work with the mother. They work with the baby and the mother, drawing the mother's attention all the time. Look, when you smile, the baby smiles. Look, when you get depressed, the baby starts crying. Pointing out the things that we know from all the research that's been going on in early childhood. They solicit or recruit mothers, they don't solicit, they recruit mothers at these primary health centres in Alex, at the four clinics that are available there, and invite any of those who wish to have a visit. And we're doing this as a research project. We've seen 80 moms and babies. We've recorded them before and after the 10 visits. One of the things that came home to us as a result of that project is that we're starting too late. The relationship with the baby begins -9. A mother begins to develop a primary preoccupation with that embryo. And that's the beginning. If you can support that, if you're a teenage mother and you've found yourself pregnant without wanting to, chances are you've got a very negative feeling about this fetus. And so if we can build up the positive aspects of it, the awareness of the mother of the child and the child of the mother, we believe we're making a big impact. We started a teenage HIV mothers group. It did not work 8 years ago. One of the reasons is we don't think it's good to have a specific problem about a mother-infant group, because it starts with the problem dominating the relationship. So we gave that up and started the other groups. We started teenage pregnancy groups. So these are the usual statistics: 50.56 million people 2 years ago, 31% younger than 15,000, 1 million babies born every year. Paternal orphans, 2.5 million, maternal, 600,000, total orphans, 4 million. AIDS orphans, 1.4. Child-headed households, 98,000, much less than one expected, actually. Children living with both parents, 35%, mothers only 40%, father only 3%, neither biological parents, 23%, so with friends or relatives, grandparents, 8%. A few years ago, we began a Gauteng Association of Infant Mental Health, asking other people in private practice to get involved with infant mental health. And it's been launched, it's successful. We went to the World Association of Mental Health Conference in April and are members of that, and Mark Tomlinson is on the board of that very worthwhile organization. We thank you for your attention.